Uh, so we we shall learn today. We shall learn about SAS arrays. So arrays in SAS work differently than the arrays work for the different programming languages. So we shall learn about the differences today session. I mean, when I say other programming languages like Java, .NET, there in Java, .NET, all those languages over there, they actually occupy the memory space. If you remember, they actually occupy the memory space. But coming to SAS, it's a different. It works a different way. It exists only duration. It will exist only during the current data step, as long as the current data step or during the execution of the current data step means during the execution of the data step, these arrays will execute, and once you are done with your execution of SAS data sets, the arrays will be deleted. The arrays will be deleted. Now we'll see what is an array and how can you write an array and what are the various scenarios that we can see using an array. We'll look into all those things. Let me quickly pull that. One second. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Delete it. Okay. So I'll talk from SAS standpoint. SAS array is a set of variable grouped together and for the duration of a data set by being given a name in an array statement. We'll see what is an array. And so array in simple words, to make it complex, I mean, that's the first two lines, whatever you're saying, this is a little, I mean, you might be not understanding. But to make it simple, SAS array is a temporary grouping of SAS variables. What we do is we try to group all the related variables, and we can store so we can SAS array is a temporary grouping of SAS variables. You can store all your variables, related homogeneous variables or a related variables. You can group it and you can store it in an array. We'll see how to do this. So SAS array is a temporary grouping of SAS variables. We'll see what do you mean by temporary grouping of SAS variables and how to put it in an array. And SAS array exists only the duration of data step. So this array, whatever the array you create, that will exist only when you run that data step. When you run any data step, inside a data step, we create an array, and that array will exist only during the execution of that SAS data step. Once the execution is done, then the array will be deleted from the, it will be deleted, it will be deleted. We'll see all those examples, then you'll understand. Uh, and one important point is all variables that are associated with an array, all variables that are associated with an array must be of same type. Let's say you are creating an array and you are grouping some variables and you are storing in that array. So when you store variables in an array, all the variables should be of same data type. I mean, in a single array, you cannot store, I mean, mix, I mean, some variables, some character variables and some numeric variables. You cannot store in an array different data type variables. So when you create an array, you can store only either a numeric, all the numeric variables or all the character variables. So the definition of array is collection of homogeneous elements. Homogeneous elements. Elements are nothing but variables. So so when you create an array, you have to store either numeric variables or character variables. So you can call them as a character array or numeric arrays. So let's say you are storing all character arrays in one particular array, then you can call them as character arrays, and you can also store numeric arrays. When I say character arrays, for example, let's say you have created an array, something called mm, quarter QTR. Let's say you have created an array called QTR. Okay. So in QTR, QTR is an array. You are storing. Let's say you have Q1 variable, Q2 variable, Q3 variable, Q4 variable. Quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. 4 quarters profit. And let's say uh, these are all numeric variables. Okay, so when you create an array, you cannot collect some numeric variables and some character variables and store it in an array. That is not possible. Okay, or authentication. Okay. So either you can store all the character variables, you can store all the character variables or all the numeric variables in an array. Okay. Next, the array statement is a compile time statement that defines the elements in an array. So general form of the array. So let me talk about this. See, the syntax of an array would be, let me first explain the syntax, then you'll understand. So array, it starts with a keyword called array, followed by name of the array, with what name you wanted to create an array, followed by subscript, followed by subscript. So in curly braces or in braces, you have to put the subscript. Subscript is nothing but number of elements that you wanted to store in this array. Number of elements. Elements are nothing but, here array elements is there, right? Array elements are nothing but variables. Array elements are nothing but variables. Variables. Okay, subscript is nothing but number of elements. Number of, let's say you have given 5. It means in array elements you need to mention 5 variable names. 5 variable names. And if it is a character variable, just you need to put it as a dollar, and you can also define the length. We'll see all these examples in today's session. Okay. And the array statement is a compile time statement. What do you mean by compile time? While it checks for the syntactical errors, or while it reads the data, SAS when compilation, when it in the compilation, what it does, it will scan your data and it will check for any syntactical errors you have in your program, right? So it will check. So during that time itself, it will define the number of elements, or define these elements, what all the elements you have in this array, you should have in this array. And the array name is followed by either a pair of parentheses or braces or square brackets. So array name is followed by either a pair of parentheses or braces or square brackets. For example, let me give you an example. Uh, okay, let's say you have created an array uh, called sales. Let's say you have created an array called sales, or you have created, let's say you have created an array, I'm sorry, let's say you have created an array called some customer ID. Okay, so in and in customer ID, let's say you have stored year 1 variable, year 2 variable, year 3 variable, year 4 variable. Now I wanted to find out how much sale I made to each customer. For example, in 2001 year, 2002 year, 2003 year, 2004, whatever. I wanted to perform some calculations. Or to make it simple, I put it here. Let's say you written array followed by, let's say, some qtr quarter, okay, and followed by subscript, let's say 4, and you have written something like q1, q2, q3, q4. Okay, and here in this case array is a keyword and qtr is the array name and 4 is the number of elements. Elements are nothing but variables and these are the variables. Okay, and if so how to refer these elements. So if I say qtr of 1, it is nothing but it refers to q1 variable. If I say qtr of 2, it refers to q2 variable. If I say qtr of 3, it refers to q3 variable. Q3. If I say qtr of 4, it's q4. So this is how you call the array elements. Let's say you in these are all four elements I have mentioned in the array statement. This each element is called a variable. Okay, each element is called variable, and you can refer to these variables using this one. Let's say you wanted to calculate some profit. Let's say you wanted to calculate Q1. Q1 is nothing but, let's say for example, on sales amount you got 10% profit. So I wanted to calculate this. So how do you call this Q1? You will not call directly Q1. You will try to use this QTR of 1. QTR of 1 equals to sales into 0.1. This is how you calculate. Okay. So this is how you define an array in a data statement. The array followed by name of an array followed by number of elements in an array, and all those elements you need to put. You have to mention in the array list. You can call it as array list or element list. You need to provide here. These elements are nothing but your variables. Your variables. Okay. Yeah. Uh, See here, each element is identified by a subscript that represents its position in the array. When you use an array reference, the corresponding value is substituted for the reference. So what they are trying to say here is the one which I have just explained. Each element is identified by a subscript. So here this is called a subscript, right? In the subscript you have mentioned 4. How do you identify these elements? Identify these elements using subscripts. So if I say qtr of 1, the first element in the array list, or sorry, in the list of elements. So if I say qtr of 2, in the second position whatever element you have, that will come. This is qtr of 3. So in the third position in this list of elements, whatever you have, that will come here. Okay. So each element is identified by a subscript. Subscript is nothing but the number of, you just saw in the curly braces whatever value you have. So let's say if you say qtr of 1, it will represent to the first element in the array. So when you use array reference, then the corresponding value is submitted for the reference. When I say qtr of 1, so q1 will be submitted. That's what they're trying to say here. And defining array, just now we saw this. So you array followed by name of an array, number of elements. In the subscript, the array has subscript of 4 elements. See, this is called subscript. The vocabulary which we use in arrays, whatever you have in curly braces, that part is called subscript. And in this subscript, we have 4 elements, and you have defined those 4 elements after that subscript. And alternatively, let's say you don't want to calculate the number of elements. Let's say in this example, the other way you can write the alternate syntax for that one is, let's say you have year 1, year 2, total, year 3, year 4. It does not require that every time you have to follow the order, like year 1 followed by year 2, followed by year 3, followed by year 4. It's not mandated that you need to follow an order. You can write in whatever fashion, you can define your list in whatever fashion you want. And if you don't want to count the number of elements, you can use asterisk symbol. Asterisk symbol. Asterisk stands for all the elements, whatever you get it here. For example, let me give you a layman example. Let's say I don't have all these, I don't know the number of elements. Let me write here underscore numeric underscore. For example, let's say I wanted to perform the same calculation for all the numeric variables. So I'll just mention underscore numeric underscore argument here. And since I don't know the number of elements, I can put it here star. If you don't want to count the number of elements, then you can use star. Or if you don't know the number of elements, you can use star instead of the number of. If you know the number of elements, then you can go straight away. You can simply call and you can mention the count. But if you don't know the number of elements, then you can use star. Here my objective is, let's say for example, there are 100 numeric variables, and generally we use in modeling concept. Generally, if you, let's say you have 100 numeric variables. Let's say you wanted to replace all the missing percentage, all the missing values, all the missing values. If you have any missing values in any numeric variables, I wanted to replace with some. If there is missing, I wanted to replace with 0. Let's say, or else you wanted to replace with the mean value. Let's say you wanted to replace with the mean value, okay, or you wanted to replace with the, if the, let's say you have data in this fashion, 10.20, you have, let's say you have 3 elements, m1, m2, m3. Okay, now what I want is, if the values are missing, then I have to take the previous value and I have to retain that. Let's say for example, so this is what you have to do. So in such scenarios, so you have to do the same operation across all the numeric variables. So I'll just mention I underscore numeric hyphen. So I don't know how many numeric variables are there, but I wanted to do the same operation across all the numeric variables. In such scenarios, you no need of counting the number of elements. You can simply use star. Or else, let's say you have like array some marks. I can write here star. Let's say you don't know number of elements in between M1 to M50. Let's say you want to consider all the elements starting from M1 to M50. Let's say there might be some there might be some variables missing. Let's say M50, M49 is not there, M30 is not there, M27 is not there. So no need of counting. So what we can do is we can write M1 double hyphen M50. It means please consider all the variables. Please consider all the variables in the SAS data set. In the SAS data set starting from M1 till M50. Whatever variables you have from M1 to M50, you consider all those variables and perform your calculations. In the array we write other statements as well. So you whatever SAS statements I have written, please perform against all these variables. All these variables. Since I don't know the count, I can mention here star. Star. We'll see the examples, then you'll understand. Indeed, when you understand better when we see examples. Okay, this is one important point. So in array we use loops. In array we use loops. Along with SAS arrays, loops is mandatory. Loops is mandatory because you have to process for against each element, so you have to run the loop. So loop is mandatory with arrays. So using an iterative do loop, we process an array. So arrays are completely dependent on loops. Arrays are completely dependent on loops. Okay, without loops we cannot run array. Actually, we cannot process an array. We cannot process an array without loops. Okay, so we use iterative loops and we process an array. And anyway, you know the syntax for do loop, right? Do index variable equals to 1 to number of elements in an array. So in an array you have listed, you list some elements, right? So you have to process on each element. So you have to run the loop. You have to run the loop on each element, and you can achieve your desired task. Now let's see practically to make you understand. Okay, uh, let's say for example, let me take this example. Now now let's take this example. Let's take, I have given you a data set. I gave you a data set, or let's say this is weights weights of, let's say, students, weights of students, uh, weights of students. These are weights of students. Okay, weights of students in kilograms. Weights of students in kilograms. Okay, now what I want is, I mean, if you look at K1, K2, K3, these are the weights uh, in three instances. Let's say for student A, you took the weight in the first week. This is, let's say this is the first week weight information, second week weight information, third week weight information. Okay, in the same way you have four students here. So across 3 weeks you took the weights. Now what I want is, this is my input. In my output, what I want is, I want to calculate, I want to convert this kilograms into pounds. I want to convert kilograms into pounds, into pounds. I want to convert kilograms into pounds. So I wanted to create three variables, P1, P2, P3, and I wanted to multiply each value in K1, K2, K3, whatever values you have, each value I wanted to multiply with 2.204. 2.204. Let's say if you want to convert it, 1 kilogram equals to 2.204 pounds. 1 kilogram equals to 2.20 pounds. Now I wanted to multiply each element, in K1 variable, K2 variable, K3 variable, whatever values you have, I wanted to multiply with 2.204, and I want to create three variables. I want to create three variables. I want to create three variables, and in those variables I need to get this information. This is simple. How we are getting this? We are multiplying this 52 into 2.204, then you get this value. The same way you get the others as well. Okay, so you learned base sense, right? You learned a lot of programming stuff so far. How will you do it? If I want the same thing, how will you do it using, without writing an arrays? Without writing an arrays. So how to do this? So you have to write. How can you get that information? Can I write like P1 equals to K1 into 2.204, P2 equals to K2 into 2.204, P3 equals to K3 into 2.204. Can I write in this way? Let's see the output. Okay, you got it right. You got the output. But let's say you have 100, you took the 52 weeks, you collected the data for 52 weeks. Then what you will do? If there is 52 weeks, you have to create 50, 54, you have to write 54 statements or 52 statements. It's a tedious task, right? And see here what you're trying to do. You're trying to calculate three variables P1, P2, P3. How you are calculating? How you are calculating? By considering the first element, the variable. This is one of the element. This element or this variable you are considering, and you are multiplying with 2.204, and you are storing in P1, right? And you are taking this second variable K2 and you are multiplying with 2.204, and you are storing in P2. Now let's see how to do the same thing in arrays. Okay, how to do the same thing in arrays. Okay, now see, we define an array. So array followed by name of an array. See, I want in my calculation, if you look at in your calculations, in this calculation you are leveraging your kilogram related variables like K1, K2, K3 as well as P1, P2, P3. So I will create two arrays, one is for pounds, the other one is for kilograms. I will create two arrays, pounds and kilograms. So here array followed by name of the array, and this array name should follow the naming conventions of SAS variables. Okay, array name followed by in the subscript I mentioned 3. So it means 3 elements. So I can specify here K1, K2, K3, or I can also alternatively write K1 hyphen K3, or you can specify K2, K1, K2, K3. That's fine, anything is fine. So you can provide with the list of values as well, K1, K2, K3, not a problem. And for P, I'm creating one more array for pounds. So I'm saying to create array called PO. PO is nothing but name of an array, it's pound, and number of elements in this subscript is 3, and what all the values you want, you have to provide the list of elements. See, when you create an array, it's not mandatory that you have to use all the whatever elements, list of elements you provide in an array. It's not mandatory that those lists should appear in the data. It's not mandatory that that list should appear in the data. Coming to P1, P2, P3, these are not there in the data, right? We don't have in the data. So the list of elements, whatever you provide in an array, it's not mandatory that that needs to be that needs to be already present in a SAS data set. It's not mandatory. Okay. Now I created two arrays. One is for kilograms, the other one is pounds. So I have to leverage the loops, whatever we have learned so far. So how many elements are there? We have 3 elements. So I need to run the loop 3 times. I need to run the loop 3 times. So already we have these elements information. We need to calculate P1, P2, P3. How you will get P1 information? P1 is nothing but PO of 1. P2 is nothing but PO of 2. P3 is nothing but PO of 3. Now I have to run this loop 3 times, because there are total 3 elements which I need to calculate, P1, P2 and P3. I need to calculate P1, P2, P3. So how I will get P1? P1 is nothing but, if I multiply K1 into 2.204, I'll get K1, right? So how you get this P1? In the first iteration, when the loop runs for the first time, it will take P1 and it will calculate, it will pick the K1 and it will multiply with 2.204. Now see this, inside the do loop, see the SAS statement what I have written. PO of I. What do you mean by PO of I? Let's say I value is 1. What will be the value in PO of 1? So it will pick the first element in array PO. What is the first element? P1. So it will replace P1 here. P1 equals to kg of 1. So what is the first element in the kg array? It's k1. So it will replace k1 existing variable and it will multiply with 2.204. Now if I execute this, we will get the same output. So when the condition will fail, when the I value is 4, in the fourth iteration it will fail. At the time of failing, what all the values it has, it will display. And if you don't want this I, you can drop it. Let me put it here. See, we are trying to create two arrays. Kg is an array, PO is an array. Okay, and in each kg of 3, it means you will have kg1, kg2, kg3. You will have 3 references. kg1 is nothing but k1, kg of 2 is nothing but k2, kg of 3 is nothing but k3. In the same way, you created one more array called PO, pound. So you have 3 references in this: PO of 1, PO of 2, PO of 3. PO of 1 is nothing but P1, PO of 2 is nothing but P2, PO of 3 is nothing but P3. Now what we are trying to do, we are calculating P1. How do you get P1? So you have to take PO of 1. You have to take PO of 1. So PO of 1, and how you get the PO of 1 values? I mean, how can you calculate? You have to take kg of 1 into 2.204, right? Into 2.204. Okay. Uh, okay, into 2.204. So, so you have to multiply this kg of 1 with 2.204, right? So how you get this PO of 1? You have to run the loop. You have to take the first, see, you have to take the first value and you need to multiply. You have to take the first value from another array and you need to multiply. So you need to run how many, you have to calculate these 3 values. So how many times you have to run the loop? You have to run 3 times. You have to run the loop 3 times. So that's what I have done here. Drop equals to I. Let me stop here and see if you have any questions on this program. So if you understand this program, then it's very easy for you to understand the other program. Anyone, any questions on arrays? See, arrays is one of the little tough topic in our data step programming. Okay, there are no questions. I'll move to the next. Why in input statement found has not initialized? Okay, so let me do that. The meaning of this one is, see, you don't have those information. Those are the calculated fields. You are calculating those variables. This is the data. I have given you this data. I have given you this data and you have to calculate P1, P2, P3. So you have to calculate. These are the derived columns, not existing columns. Okay. So once your data is ready, then what you have to do is you have to calculate those elements. Your data is in one dimension and you have to this is what ideally you'll do. See, here I created manually the data, right? But in real time, let's say you have a data set. So then you need to write a program in this way. So this is what you need to write. So you have an already existing SAS data set. You need to write in this function. Since it's an internal raw data, when I say internal raw data, we are providing the data. So we can do all the calculations in the single data set itself. And to answer your question, these cannot be initialized. Means see, these P1, P2, P3 data we don't have it here. We don't have the data P1, P2, P3. Okay, so we cannot, in the input statement we cannot write those values. These are derived P1, P2, P3 are derived variables. But in existing raw data, you have K1, K2, K3 variables information. So you can write in the input statement all the, see these variables, whatever you have mentioned in the input statement, that these variables, whatever you have mentioned in input statement, that depends on the data you have here. In the data lines, whatever data you have written. So you have total 4 variables information. So I have defined all those 4 variables. And this P1, P2, P3, we are calculating P1, P2, P3. So you cannot write it in input statement. Okay, got it? Okay. Okay. So we call this as an one-dimensional array. Here this is called one-dimensional array. See, a one-dimensional array is a linear structure of elements. So here you have mentioned only one dimension. Here you have mentioned only one dimension. When I say one dimension, if you look at this program, there are no, these are all only columns. K1 is a column, K2 is a column, K3 is a column. You don't have any row part. Just the linear structure of elements. You just store the linear structure of elements. You just store the elements in an array. So let's see the same program how to do it using two-dimensional array. The same program, whatever we have seen. Let's see how to do it in a two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array is a structure of elements in rows and columns. But one-dimensional array is a structure of element in only columns. But a two-dimensional array is a structure of elements in rows and columns. For example, observe this diagram. Okay, so I'm trying to create a two-dimensional array here. So I'll not create two arrays like for the kilograms one array, for pounds one array. I'll not create. So I'll create an array called so let's say KP. KP is the name of array, and I'll store all the elements in this array. Example, see here how to write in program. I I want two rows and three. I wanted to create a two-dimensional array in which I need two rows and three columns. Two rows and three columns. Two rows, three columns. See, if you look at here, we want to include the above program like kilograms and pounds. You have created two different arrays, right? I wanted to create in one array. So how many statements you have written here? Two, right? So there are two rows. So one is for kilogram, the other one is for pound. And how many elements you have in each array? Three, right? So that's the reason I'm giving 2, 3. So two rows, three columns. I wanted to create an array called KP with two rows, three columns. So and in the first row, what elements you want? I want K1, K2, K3. In the second row, what elements you want? P1, P2, P3. So you have to notate, you have to specify in this method. So in the first row, what elements you wanted to pick. In the second row, what elements you wanted to pick. Okay. To make it clear, let's see here. See, in the first row, I have mentioned K1, K2, K3. In the second row, I have mentioned P1, P2, P3. Right? In the first row, I have mentioned K1, K2, K3. In the second row, I have mentioned P1, P2, P3. And this is a row index. And if you talk from the column index standpoint, this is the column index 1, 2, 3. And now think of a matrix 1, 2, 3. Think of a matrix. Your school days. Go back to your school days and think of a matrix. Let me put it here 5 and put it here 6. So which matrix it is? It's 2 by 3 matrix, right? 2 rows, 3 columns. 2 rows, 3 columns. So how do you refer the first element? This one, 1. 1 is nothing but first row, first column, right? How do you note? How do you identify this one? This one. It's first row, first column, right? It's first row, first column. It's 1. So 2 is nothing but in the first row. It's the second element. 3 is nothing but, sorry, I didn't get it. 1 star exclamatory. Okay, 1 by 1. You're trying to say 1 by 1. Okay. So 3. Yeah. Okay. 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 I got it. Thank you. And this 3, it's nothing but first row, third element, right? 1 comma 3. 1 comma 3. Now coming to 4. What is 4? It's the second row, first element. This one, second row, second element. Second row, second element. What is this? Second row, third element. Right? Now, what you have to calculate? You have to calculate 2 1 is nothing but P1, 2 2 is nothing but P2, P3 is nothing, 2 3 is nothing but P3. So you have to calculate 2 1, 2 2, 2 3, right? How you'll get this value 2 1? You have to multiply this value, whatever you have, okay, with 2.204, right? And how you'll get this 2 comma 2 P2? How you'll get this 2 comma 2? You have to multiply this value 1 comma 2 value into 2.204, right? How you get this 2 3? This P 2 3 is nothing but what is the value? It's P3, right? So how you can you calculate this? You have to multiply 1 3, whatever you have in kilograms, whatever you have to multiply this with 2.204. So, right? Do you agree? You understood this? See, this is you have defined an array, and in the form, you have defined a two-dimensional array. So in the first row you have k1, k2, k3. In the second row you have, when I say k2 comma 3, it means 2 rows and 3 columns. In the first row k1, k2, k3. Second row p1, p2, p3. We wanted to calculate this based on these values. Okay. So what you have to do? You have to run the loop. You have to run the loop how many times? 3 times, right? So this 2 comma 1, 2 comma 2, 2 comma 3. So can I write kp of, I'm just giving an example here, kp of 2 comma I, 2 comma I equals to kp of 1 comma I into 2.204. Can I write in this way? And let's say you're running loop, do I equals to 1 2 3. You're running loop 3 times. So I value is 1, it will go inside. See, kp of 2 comma 1. So what is the element 2 comma 1? 2 comma 1 is nothing but p1. So you wanted to calculate p1 first, equals to kp of 1 comma 1. What do you have in 1 comma 1? K1. So you have to calculate p1. How you will get p1? You have to take the element. You have to run the loop for 2 comma 1 first. So 2 comma 1 equals to, you have to take 1 comma 1. In 1 comma 1 position, what variable you have to take that, and you have to multiply with 2.204. And when the loop is 2, when the I value is 2, this kp, it will be I value replaced with 2. So kp of 2 comma 2. What is the value in 2 comma 2? It's p2. So how you will get this p2? You have to multiply k2 into 2.204. In the same way, when the I value is 3, it's 2 3. How you are calculating this P3 value? K3 into 2.204. That's a simple notation. Same thing I've done here. Same thing. Input, same example, nothing I've changed. I've changed here. I'm creating an array with 2 rows, 3 columns, and I provide the list of elements, and here I'm doing that calculation. You'll get the same output. Either you can individually define arrays, or you can create a 2-dimensional array and you can calculate. Let's see a couple of examples and you'll understand more other case. Let's see a couple of cases. So any questions so far? Any questions? Anyone? Did anyone did you guys understand this concept, or you didn't understand? If you don't understand, let me know here itself. How we are getting this, how we are calculating all the values. If you don't understand this concept, let me know here itself, because it will be little tough if you don't understand. Okay, let me move to the, let's say you wanted to find year-on-year growth percentage. Let's say I have given you a data set something like this. I have given you Jan 15, Feb 15, March 15 sales figures, and also Jan 16, Feb 16, March 16 sales figures. Let's say you have the data in this fashion. Okay. Now I want to find out three variables. I wanted to create three variables: percentage change in the Jan month, percentage change in the Feb month, percentage change in the March month. Okay, percentage change in Jan, percentage change in Feb, percentage change in March. So how you get this? Percentage change in Jan is nothing but last year it was 12, this year it was 15. What is the increase? 3. 3 by 12. So there is an increase of 25%. So you have to calculate this percentage increase in the prices or sales. So what you do in this case? So how you got this percentage Jan? Percentage Jan, this percentage increase in Jan is nothing but current minus this year's, is divided by the previous value. So you got this 25%. So if you want to do this in programmatically, yes, you can do it. Let's say you have something called, you can write Jan 16 minus Jan 15 divided by Jan 15. And if it is for Feb, again you need to write Feb 16 minus Feb 15 divided by Feb 15. And again, if you want to do it for 12 months, you have to keep on writing the statement. It's a tedious task, right? So, and also, let's say you have 3 years. So you have to take, you have 2017 data. Then you have to consider the percentage increase of 17 when compared to 16. So it's a tedious task. So the same calculation you have to do it, right? You can do it in using, you can do that using arrays. Let's see. So this is what you can do it in a simple way. So this is your data. If you want to do the same calculation using your existing knowledge, you can simply write percentage change in Jan equals to Jan 16 minus Jan 15 by Jan 15. So you can keep on writing, but if you have 12 statements, you have to write 12 statements. If you have 24 statements, you have to write 24 statements, right? It's a tedious task. If the number of statements increases, then it's a tedious task. So alternatively, what we can do is we can do it with an array. See, I created 3 arrays individually. One is for year underscore 15, and the other is for year underscore 16. Year 15, year 16. For 2015, I created an array y15, and for 2016, I created an array called y16, and I created one more array called PC. PC is nothing but percentage change. And in this array, I'm providing a list to this array y15, that is Jan 15, Feb 15, and March 15. These are the three elements. Right? That's the reason in the subscript you have three. In the same way, Jan 16, Feb 15, March 16, and these three elements, I'm uh, sending to Y16 array, uh, and number of elements are 3. So in the subscript, I have mentioned 3. And these 6 are all, I mean, these elements, whatever you are showing here, Jan 15, Feb 15, March 15, all these are already existing in SAS dataset. In YOY, we have it. And PC of 3, percentage change in the month of Jan, Feb, and March, these are newly calculated. Okay. So here, while creating an array, it's not mandatory that you need to have existing variables. You can also use new variables or the derived variables in arrays. Now I need to run loop 3 times. So how I will get this? First I need to calculate PC of 1. In PC of 1, what is the value I have? PC Jan. So PC of 1, so PC Jan equals to Y16 of I. Y16 of I is nothing but 2016 Jan month minus Y15 of I value will be 1, right, in the first iteration. So it will take Jan 15 and you are dividing with Y15 of I, Jan 15. So you will get the value. It will calculate. It will calculate the same percentage. You calculate the percentage. Let's say you have 2017 data. Again, you will create one more array. Y17. Create an array. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions on this program? Or any other explanation needed? Any questions? Anyone? But from the interview standpoint, you will not have any questions from arrays. Don't worry. Well, from the interview, they don't. 99.99% they don't ask. But if you know, it will be better. Okay, the other note, you can also write it in this fashion. See here, instead of writing 3 elements, let's say I have written Jan 15 hyphen March 15. What does it mean? What does it mean? See, there is a small difference if you observe in the above program. Somewhere I have written K1 hyphen K3. What is the difference between single hyphen and double hyphen, or single dash and double dash? What is the difference? Anyone? See, if I write K1 hyphen K3, so what is the difference between these two? See, here the meaning is, in the first case, so it depends on this. See here, the each and every variable should start with k, and the number can be anything. Like here, the values, it means k1. Let's say here I have given 10. It means k1 to k10 means k1, k2, k3, k4, k5, k6, k7, k8, k9, and k10, irrespective of in which these variables doesn't needs to be in an order in the input data set. Let's say first you have k3, or let's say you have in between in the input data set you have like in between, let's say you have in the input data set m1, but it will remove this and it will consider only the elements k1 to k10. But the meaning of Jan 15 double hyphen March 15 is all the elements. See here, it's not starting with a specific keyword k. It is not starting with k, right? Then how it will identify? It means if I write in this way, it means it should follow the order of variables in the input data set. Like for example, in the input data set, let's take see, you have, when I say Jan 15 hyphen March 15, all the elements in between Jan 15 to March 15. Let's say you have Jan 16 also in between Feb 15 and March 16. That will come. If I say Jan 15 hyphen March 15. So I mean all the variables stored in SAS dataset from Jan 15 to March 15. Please consider those. That's the meaning of double hyphen. But if you say K1 hyphen K3, let's say here you have K1, and after that you don't have K2. Somewhere you have K2, and somewhere you have K3. So in that case, if you use single hyphen, it means all the variables starting with K and followed by that what is subscript like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But when you use double hyphen, all the elements in the order whatever in whichever order the variable stored between Jan 15 to March 15 in the input data set, you consider all those variables. So here, that's the reason here I have given Jan 15 to March 15. Please consider, let me say here, if you have December, you'll write here December. You will not write Jan 15, Feb 15, you will not write all those things. You will write December and you will write here star. When I say star, automatically it will count the number of elements. In the same way, Jan 16 to March 16 and PC of 3. Here it's fine. This is coming from input data, so you can give star and all. But you are calculating here, right? You are calculating these variables, so you need to mention all these variables and you have to mention the number of elements. So you can either write, you can individually, this is two ways of writing the array. Either you can write it in this way, you can provide the list of arrays, or you can, the other way of writing the same thing is Jan 15 hyphen March 15. So all the elements starting from Jan 15 to March 15 in SAS dataset, please consider all those variables. Now let's see. Okay. Last observation carried forward and average substitution. Let's see how to, if the values are missing, how to take the mean and substitute, as well as how to carry forward, how to take the previous value and substitute. Let's see those examples now. For example, okay. Uh, See this example. See, first let's say you wanted to replace with missing values. You wanted to replace with missing values. You wanted to replace with missing values. If the values are missing values, so the data is missing data replace with zeros. So if you have any missing data, replace with zeros. So see here I have missing data, here I have missing data. I wanted to replace with 0. So same thing, and so there are 3 elements, so k1, k2, k3. Here I'm not calculating any new variables. I'm just trying to replace in the existing variables. I'm trying to replace with 0. So I have to, so how many elements are there? 3 elements. So I need to run 3 times. Loop I need to run 3 times. So I need to first refer to the k1 value first. So ki. So when the I value is 1, it will take the k1. If k1 is equals to dot, means it will check when in k1 whether you have dot. So in k1 if you have dot, then it will replace with 0. Again it will check for k2 values. If it is dot, then it will replace with 0. Again if you check for k3 values, again it will replace with 0. See here we need to get, after executing this program, I need to get 0 here as well as 0 here. So got 0. Let's say you wanted to uh, substitute the previous value. Let's say this value is missing, then you wanted to fetch this value and replace here. If this value is missing, you have to fetch this value and you need to replace here. Okay. So in fact, the same program, what I have done here is observe this code. Ki, if it is missing, please pick the values of previous element. See, let's say when I value is 2, let's say for example I value is 2. Okay, uh, I mean it is dot, right? So what you will get here, ki equals to means k2 equals to, here I value is what, 2, 2 minus 1, it's 1. What value you have in k1? It has 54, that will be replaced here. Now you might get doubt, what if the first value is missing? The first value is missing. So what you will do? The first value is missing. See here I got 55. Here also I got 55. Here I got 54. So it is, if the values are not available, then I wanted to carry forward the previous value. So based on the requirement, you have to write the program. Now, hmm, ah, here there is a little challenge. Okay, in this program, what you are trying to do is, you are saying, I mean, let's see the output. Did you get the proper output or not? Check it here. So always you need to mention this code. I mean, if the value is missing, then you have to consider the previous element. If the values are not missing, you have to retain the same value. You have to retain the same value. So if kg of I equals to dot, then kg of I equals to kg of I minus 1. So it will, if the values are missing, it will pick the previous variable values. Okay. And if it is not missing, what you have to do? You need to tell that as well. If it is not missing, then please retain the same value. Next, if you want to find the average, then you can write the code in this fashion. See here, observe this program carefully. If kg of I equals to dot, let's say if it is dot, if it is missing, I wanted to take the average of the remaining values. I wanted to take the average of remaining values. I wanted to replace that value in the missing place. So if kg of I is nothing but 1, let's say this 1 equals to dot, and one important point I have to tell you here, there is a function called dim is a function. Okay, see here generally in the loop what we need to mention, we have to mention the number of elements, right? But let's say you don't know the number of elements. So if you don't know the number of elements, you'll put it here star. But how I will come to know what should I mention in the loop? What should I mention here? Till which, how many times I have to run this loop? We don't know, right? So there is a function called dim in arrays. So we use dim function, dim of array name. Array name is kg. So whatever number you get it here, that number will be replaced here. Dim of kg. Dim is a function. Kg is the name of the array. So the number of elements it calculates automatically from here, and whatever the value you get here, that will be replaced here. So for that you have to use dim function, dim of array name. And coming to average, let's say this is missing. What is the average? It should be 56 only. Why? Because 56 plus 56 by 2, it's 56. And here 54 plus 54 by 2. Here 43 plus 55 by 2. So how to do that? If data is missing, I want to replace with average values. So if kg of I equals dot, then kg of I equals to, you have mean function, right? Mean of, you can see here, you can write it in two ways. You can write k1, k2, k3, whatever. Or if you remember data step programming, I told you two ways. If you want to take the mean of three variables, you can either write m1 comma m2 comma m3, or you can also alternatively write mean of m1 hyphen m3. If you remember the functions, then you'll understand. So if you want to take the mean of three variable values, then you can either write mean of m1 comma m2 comma m3, or you can also alternatively write mean of m1 and m1 hyphen m3. The same concept I have used here. Mean of, here there you used to provide the list, but here I don't know what elements I have, so I have to consider all the elements. Kg of star, when I say kg of star, all the elements, k1, k2, k3 values, k1, k2, k3 values. Okay, it will pick the k1, k2, k3 values and it will apply the main function, and whatever you get, that mean value that will be replaced with the missing place. Any questions on this? Any questions? Anyone? Okay, there are no questions. I'll move to the next program. Let's say you wanted to replace, I mean, wherever in all, here I have k1. See, in between k1 and k2 I have a numeric variable or character variable called b. I have a character variable called b. Now what I want to do is, I want to here, I have here the k1 values, b variable b values, k2 values, k3 values. Now wherever I have missing values, I wanted to replace with 4 nines. Let's say you wanted to replace with 4 nines. So I can use an argument called underscore numeric underscore in the array. So array, I'm creating an array name called kg of star. Since I don't know the number of elements, why I don't know the number of elements? Because I want to perform a manipulation or a process. What I wanted to do is, in all, if there are any numeric variables in the input data set, if there are any numeric variables in the data set, then consider all the numeric variables, and if any missing values are there in those numeric variables, replace with 999. So in the array, instead of giving the list of variables or list of elements, you can use an argument called underscore numeric underscore. So it considers all the numeric variables from this list of variables. So you have k1, k2, k3. So here I am using star because since I don't know the number of numeric variables, I am using star. So in the do loop, I'm saying do I equals to 1 to dim is a function, as I explained you just now. Dim is a function, it will calculate the number of elements from this array. So in array, whatever number you get it here, that will be taken. So dim of, you will apply this function on this dim function on array name. So it will count the number of elements what is stored here and it will come here. And I'm saying here if kg of I equals to dot, then kg of I equals to 999. So in the first iteration, I value will be 1, so it will consider the k1 value, k1 variable, and if checks for the missing values, if there are any missing values, it will replace with 999, 4 nines. In the same way, if you have any missing values in the character, what happened? Okay. Not working. It got freeze. Not working. For some reason I don't know what happened to my system. Were you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are able to see your screen, Dr.
Yeah, it got freeze for some reason. I'm not sure what happened.
Shift and delete, it will go to restart thing and
But
just come back.
yeah, no,
That, it will will show the cancellation thing, but you just cancel